And by the way, whenever I do harvest an animal, I give thanks to God for allowing me to take one of his treasured.
Yep.
But we didn't have that luxury. We ordered out a herder's catalog, and then there was another couple of magazine type places you could order stuff. But he also made the first fiber sites using fishing line and stuff like that.
Really?
The hunt is one thing when you shoot the animal. The other hunt is the second hunt, and that's retrieving that animal.
Yeah.
All right. So earlier you mentioned that the outdoor was your church, and is that kind of how you got into the archery side of things?
Or hunting, I guess.
Or
Yeah.
hunting?
Yes, it is. Some people, the believers, some people, and that's why we have churches, think that we need to go to church. But as you know, being outdoors and to me, God's everywhere, and I'm a believer of God. I don't think you have to go to church to be a believer, but I do believe that the outdoors is where I get in touch with God, and now that gives me a time to reflect on not the everyday things or my PTSD. I got into archery because I was a rifle hunter for a while. And when I first got home, I had a 30-30. I had 243, and I took some deers with that. But I was out hunting one time out where I live, and I had somebody, for whatever reason, thought it was a joke, shooting towards my way. And I could hear the bullet zinging and that, and it took me back to when I was in Vietnam. And I got really mad, and I got to the point where I could have maybe killed somebody in the situation I was. I was back in Vietnam. I didn't like that feeling, and I went down to the bar and I told them, I said, I don't know who's doing it, but next time I'm coming after you. And I meant it. And I thought, why am I being this way? I said, I can't do this anymore. So right after that happened, I decided I would never hunt again, not with a rifle. And I never even thought about archery. And my brother-in-law, Steve Blackett, and a good friend of his, Dwayne Priest, we got talking. We were always hanging around, having a few beers and stuff like this. But they realized what was going on, and Dwayne was going to the University of Idaho, Boise, or he had been, and he had a Olympic bow that he shot during, I guess they had archery at the college. And he asked me if I would like to try shooting the bow. I never even thought about it. And the more we talked, and hung out, and so one day I said, well, let me try it. Well, this bow I think was set, I don't know if it's what they're set at, 23 pounds, but it's recurve type with all the gadgets on there and everything. I couldn't even pull it back because of my injuries and stuff like that. And not only that, as you know, you probably laughed at it a few times. You see a big guy that lifts weights in the archery shop, going to go pull back even a 50-pound bow, can't even pull it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's got muscles and he knows he's got strength, but not the kind of strength to use to push and pull with a bow.
Yeah.
That used to tickle me more than anything. But here I am. I can't even pull 23 pounds back, recurve. And as you know, it stacks up as you pull it back.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even hardly get it back. So he says, okay, take it home. And I had to practice as far as I could pull it back and hold for the count of 10. And sometimes it would only be like here, and I would count to 10 and then let down. Finally, it got so I could pull back, and I shot 2 fingers, Apache style, 2 fingers under because of my hand.
Uh-huh.
I could get, and I was shaking like a mad dog. And don't let go of the string because I don't want to break the bow.
Yeah.
Finally, I let down. I can't remember what day that was, but that was such a neat feeling. And to other people that are probably physically capable and the technology we have now, I hope they can kind of relate to that. And maybe they can't because they're so strong to begin with. But for me to get that strength anchored at the corner of my mouth and hold for the count of 10.
I bet.
I mean, that was like my birthday again,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I got so I could do that. And I thought, okay, and I did that for several weeks. And when I could finally hold to the count of 10, so finally, and in my backyard I had a butt set up, made out of cardboard and a target. So he brings 3 arrows. And I go, oh, I get 3 arrows. And they were his arrows that he had for his bow. And I had a tab. And I shot Apache style. Like I said, the tab was underneath the nock. And I thought, here we go. So I got thinking I'm going to shoot arrows today. Well, it wasn't that easy. And you got to remember, this young man, Dwayne, he'd shot before. And he was teaching me how to shoot, basically. So I pulled back the string, and I had an arrow in there, and he said, okay, no, you're not going to shoot. He said, let down. So I had to do that, I don't know how many times, count to 10, with the arrow knocked. And then I pulled back on the rest, let down. I did that for I don't know how many weeks. Finally he came over, and he says, how you doing? I said, well, and then he said, concentrate on a spot, a little spot on your target there. He says, you're looking at the whole target. He said, now he put a target up there that he had a little dot on it. So he says, I want you to look at that dot and just concentrate on that dot. Don't look at the whole target. Concentrate on that spot. So I would do that every day. I'd go out and when I had time, but I would do it for quite a while. Finally, the one day he came over and he says, okay, and he had my little quiver there, and he had a piece of pipe by the side there. He took my arrows. He put them in that pipe, and he says, okay. He says, I got, oh, maybe I get to shoot today. It was really something. So he let me pull the bow back with the arrow knocked, and then I concentrated on a spot. He says, okay, now follow through, and then just let your bow hand, relax. So I let that happen, and I felt so good when I let go of that arrow. And I went to reach for another arrow. He said, no. I go, what? Why not? He says, you're not ready for another arrow. So he says, I want you to walk to the target and concentrate on what you did. I hit pretty close to but I wasn't like 10 feet or, I was close.
Yeah.
He didn't want to put me back because I'd miss for sure. But it was like maybe 10 feet, which, be not very far. And I thought, he said, I want you to think about what you did wrong, why you didn't hit that spot. And I think, well, maybe I wasn't thinking hard enough on the little spot. I was thinking big target. And I walk up there, and I pull the arrow out. And those times we had those little helpers, the round deals you could put on the arrow. Or what we used is anything that you could grab a hold of the arrow and pull out the arrow. So I pull out the arrow, and I'm going back, and he had me do that again and again. I don't know how long he had me do that. Finally, he would let me shoot more than one arrow, but I had to I'd shoot all 3 arrows and walk, not more than 3 arrows, walk to the butt, pull them out, and I guess he was training my mind, but I kind of liked that, and then I joined the archery club there. He belonged to the archery club. Both of them did because they were shooting.
This in Elko?
That was in Elko when we first started out. They only had one little archery shop. Was run by Ed Dalton. He was a detective for the police department, and this was kind of his little way of getting away from the police department and having some free time and doing what he liked to do because he was a pretty good shooter. And so I joined the archery club and met a few of the other people there, but I couldn't hardly shoot very many arrows. And to do a 12-round animal round, you shoot 3 arrows if you have to, or depending on how many arrows you had. We had 28 targets, So I didn't shoot a lot. I mainly spent most of my time at the practice, but I liked it. And I started shooting, and I shot 2 fingers under with no sights or anything like that. Then it got so I couldn't really, when we got in competition, I started shooting with a release because my fingers, Apache style, was getting harder for me to pull back the string. And then later on, I bought a bow. I think it was a Carroll at that time. It was my brother-in-law. They were shooting Carrolls at that time.
Oh, compound. You went to a compound bow.
And then my wife had an old Jennings bow. It had the pulleys on that looked like a recurve with the pulleys on
Yeah.
that. In fact, we still have it. It's a collector's. But so I started shooting that Carroll at really low poundage. It cranked it down as low as it could go. And I shot with a release, and I shot bow hunter freestyle then at that time because I didn't have the pin. So Dwayne would go, "Gil, you're hurting yourself." And I said, "What do you mean?" I says, "This is the way I can shoot." He says, "Well, if you're going to go into competition," which they wanted me to do, slowly get into that. And so I got into competition, and so I thought, he said, "You ought to put sights on there." He says, you're shooting against the guys because you got to release the guys that have 5 pins."
Yeah.
That time when we were allowed 5 pins. So I said, well, okay, so we got me set up for sight, and I got pretty good at the targets and that. So that's how I kind of got into archery, is because my brother-in-law and his good friend Dwayne Priest, he lives up in northern Idaho too, up in that little finger that goes way up to the top.
Panhandle.
Yeah, and he's retired now from his surveying job, and his wife's retired. But he got him and my brother-in-law got me into archery, and a lot had to do with. I never really started hunting until later, though. I got pretty good at. I did competition. I got pretty good at shooting with my bow, and I got to where I could hold more poundage. And later on, I even worked my way up to the max. 70 pounds is the max I could ever hold. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't hold it very long. And as you know, we didn't have the let off that bows have now.
Oh, yeah.
50% let off.
That was like, initially I think it was 33 and then went to 50.
And so it was quite a deal to hold the arrow back that long. If you were shooting Apache style or recurve, you didn't need to worry about it because you pull back and shoot, which I wish I could have done that. Some of the guys were instinctive. That's the way to shoot if you can shoot.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got to try to guess the yardage and then, get your pin close to there, a little higher, a little low, depending on where you want to shoot. And all this stuff's going through your head, and then by then the deer's gone. Or the animal.
Yeah.
So these are trying times, and I'm trying to learn. And finally, I got to be pretty good. So I think it was closer to like, I went hunting deer. I wasn't very good at it. I hunted antelope for 7 years before I finally got one.
That's pretty good, though. There's a lot of people that, especially you just spot and stock all the time.
Yeah, I was doing that, and then I thought, there's got to be a better way. So finally, a friend of mine says, we built blinds out of sagebrush and stuff like that then, but there's got to be a better way. So I liked that better. I could, we had our own range fighters where you would bring the two symbols together.
Yeah.
I still got it. We're master bow hunter instructors. So this is some of the equipment that we had. And in those days, you got to remember, they didn't have archery shops like they have now.
Yeah.
I mean, a place to shoot an indoor, man, I'd have loved that.
Yeah.
And now we do it at Gun World, archery there in Elko. And then Bob Sneed had one when he had his. But we didn't have that luxury. We ordered out a herder's catalog, and then there was another couple of magazine type places you could order stuff. So what we would do, because in those times we didn't want to try a lot of different things, each one of us would get a new gadget and we would try it. And if we didn't like it, we'd pass it to the next guy and let him try it to see if they liked it, especially with releases when they came out, and sights. Sights was a big deal. My friend in Arizona that shot, and he made Carroll handles for a while too, but he also made the first fiber sights using fishing line and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, and then because he was a machinist, and he worked at Gore-Tex, Gore and Flagstaff, which make the artificial heart valves. So he had a machine shop, and he was really good at that. So he made some of the first sights that were used like that, and so he would send it up to me, and later on I'd pay him for something, but. He was good at that, so I got into that, and he made stabilizers that they didn't have at first, but a lot of stuff. So it was trial and error back then.
Yeah.
Right.
And now I think some of the younger people don't really realize what they have
No.
or appreciate it.
You know,
And
it's
you
like
know that.
just the weight. You know, I know John and I have talked about this before. Back years ago, it was heavy aluminum arrows and using 8 arrow quiver. And then you had a heavy bow to start off with. Nothing like it is now. And you pack that around, and I mean, you know, you hear people say, oh, yeah, that bow's heavy. It weighs 4 pounds. I'm thinking, really? That was half a bow. Plus, by the time you had aluminum arrows and the 8 arrow quiver, and finally they went to some of the smaller quivers, but it was a lot to pack around, that's for sure. So I can appreciate that.
It's funny you should say that because I had that, and I remember almost the weight-wise was like an M14. I go, wow, you know.
Right.
And I couldn't believe how heavy it was when you had it all decked out.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, and as I get older, I have probably a quiver, but I'll only, when I hunt, I take probably four arrows.
Yeah.
Because I plan on making the first shot
Exactly.
count. And if I got to go through four arrows, that animal's probably long gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Or then I remember a friend telling me one time he emptied his quiver and he had to go back, look around for his arrow, so because he had that many shots. I said, "You got I never get opportunities like that." And you probably relate to that. How come somebody else get an opportunity to shoot that many arrows? Go pick them up and shoot them again.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But
yeah.
that's what archery is about, you know, is not only taking an animal, but and by the way, whenever I do harvest an animal, I give thanks to God for allowing me to take one of His treasured
Yep. Me too.
animals.
Yeah.
Anybody that doesn't appreciate their wildlife or why they're out there probably shouldn't be hunting.
You are taking a life.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and granted, it's utilized, you know, to eat,
Yeah.
but still, it is something you don't ever take it lightly.
No, and that's why I always practice. Mainly, I practice so my first shot would count. And don't get me wrong, I've missed a lot.
Yeah.
You look at the horns, you know, when there's a big dandy out there, and you're going to hit him right in the racks, or miss him completely and graze him, you know. But that happens, and that's part of archery. And then some people have lost animals too, you know. But that's part of hunting. You make every effort, like we say in the bow hunter ed. The hunt is one thing when you shoot the animal. The other hunt is the second hunt, and that's retrieving that animal.
Yeah.
It's so important to learn skills from people that you know, how to do grit squares, how to do blood trailing, you know, because it's a long lost art.
Yeah.
People think, because a lot of times animal won't go very far, especially with the arrows we have, the carbon arrows we have, and the bows that can put them out there
Broadheads.
that fast. But I can tell you that individual that tells me they know exactly where the arrow hit that animal probably doesn't really, unless they got a knock that's lit, and even then, it's not going to be exactly where he thought he was going to hit that animal.
Right.
If that animal is standing still and is, you know, 20, 30, 40 yards, and I have friends that can shoot up to 80 yards, you know, and hit a silver dollar at 80 yards, all 4 or 5 arrows. But it's different when you're shooting at a real live animal. And I try to tell people the best hunt I have on is trying to put my skills good enough to get in within 30 yards.
Yeah.
Or I pick as I got older, I hunt out of blinds, ground blinds, tree stands, or whatever, because I can pick my spot when that animal gets into where I've ranged in the yardage. I know what the yardage is. I wait for that animal to give me the best shot I can take on that animal. Some people might have things against people that hunt in blinds and that, but as you get older, and I know young people, and not only that, sometimes that's the only way you're going to get an animal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially like antelope.
Yeah.
You think you're going to go out there? I've heard, and I also measure for Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young, and I see in our records we keep track of people that stock animals, and that skill is a very good skill if you have it. And I have some friends that are really good at it, but I have friends that are like myself. They just will stay in a blind or a tree stand because they're not going to get an animal. And,
Antelope I can't tell you how frustrating antelope spotting and stalking antelope has been. You know, yeah, it's challenging.
And you know, people say, well, do you get excited when you see a animal or deer, anything coming into a blind? Oh, you bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
My antelope are the worst because you see them way out there, little dot. They're coming in. Pretty soon they keep getting bigger, and I try not to look up because that bothers me. And then as they get into about 100 yards, my old leg starts going up and down like I'm doing a dance over here by myself, And I'm going, oh God, give me this straight. And then my heart starts beating a little bit, and that's what it's about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When you get that feeling with that animal coming in on you, and you think and I don't know how many times you guys have done this. I've actually had that animal in the freezer and come to find out I missed him totally.
Yeah.
I go home with nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
You think he's, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You get the feeling, oh, man, you already counted, your chickens, already, man. I go, man, this is a bad deal. I thought, I'm not going to think that way because I'm going to wait till after I get the shot off.
Right.
And then you got to try and find the animal. But the hardest thing is trying to make sure that you don't anticipate what's going to happen later on. And you're always thinking, oh, I got to take this one to the taxidermist or the meat place and get him cut up, or I'm going to take him home and get him cut up, and I'm going to have this done, that. And you miss.
Yeah.
And that's the way you learn, though. You got to learn that not all hunts are successful, but the memories you have, especially if you got a young one that you're teaching, I can't think of a better memory than having one of your little ones go out with you and take an animal, or even when they're too young, if they can go out with you and learn.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have kids that did that when you were hunting a ground blind or a tree stand, or just they're going out with you and learning, or camping. So many people don't do that anymore. They think that the elk that you shot, the deer you shot, comes from McDonald's. And it's sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
I do recall a time my daughter, she was 5. She was so excited I was taking her hunting, we were in a blind because I thought, okay, she could move around a little bit there, And I says, I told her, I says, be quiet. I hear something coming. And she goes, where? And she stuck her head right out of the blind. And then I heard it tear it off. And I says, what was it? I don't know. I seen a flash of something. I'm like, but you know what? It was just those good times like that.
But the memories you'll have forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're because of what you taught them. And there's not a big percentage of young people that get into hunting anymore, and it's really sad, or even fishing,
Yeah.
that it's an opportunity for people to appreciate wild game,
Yeah.
and opportunity to learn how to cook it. You got to cook it a little bit different and taste a little bit different, but I don't think I've ever had I think I had one antelope that was pretty bad because he ran, and I guess but my dog wouldn't even eat the meat, but that was bad.
You're still an active Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young scorer, correct?
Yes, I am. In fact, I just got back from Springfield. We had a panel judges meeting back there. We measured almost 100 animals, and out of those 100 animals, it's hard to believe, even with Boone and Crockett or Pope and Young, because I also measure for Pope and Young, and I'm on the records committee for Pope and Young, a panel judge also, but that we have animals at world-class caliber even in these days. Because as you know, with all the gimmicks that we have that we didn't have in my time, the cameras, you probably go to a water hole and you might find 10 cameras all set up on the same place, And that's kind of sad that we have the technology that way. Or you have cameras and people have the capability of just watching those animals at home. And then they go out and we have rules against that stuff, And I know some states will allow you to have the cameras in place for watching the water holes and stuff like that, and then you got to take them in, like Nevada does.
Yeah, you have a limited time now, right?
Yeah.
I do remember a guy telling me he checked a water hole, and there was 23 cameras on there, and I mean, it's kind of I know John and I talked about this when we primarily the place I've used cameras when I started using them is bear hunting when we're bear hunting over because we could still bait here. And I think of back years ago, we didn't have them, and it was just a toss of a coin on even if something was going to come in,
Right.
when or if. Yeah.
Well, as you know, having that capabilities or the bows that we have now and the carbon arrows and the technology that we have, as you know, it makes it a lot easier for us to take an animal, but it seems like the animals have gotten smarter just as we've gotten better in technology. But I think you have to, everybody has to decide what is fair chase. And that's what Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young Club hopes that people will take that into consideration, what is really fair chase? I know when I rifle hunted, taking an animal at 500 or 600 yards, that was nothing. But to take an animal at 20 or 30 yards and put that skill into there, I feel so much better. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything bad about rifle hunting because I did rifle hunt 5 years ago when I got my bull elk. But the technology that we have, the scope and the bullets we have, matching the rangefinders, and we use rangefinders too as archers, but at least they're not on the bows and giving us that instant range, which would not give that animal, in my opinion, a fair shake on this hunt. So what I do is I use a rangefinder, but I'll range rocks or whatever. I'll put a stick out there. So I know my yardage, but at the same time, if that animal doesn't go there where I have a marker, I still have to use my brain a little bit and estimate what the yardage is. Do I add 5 or do I deduct 3? Or,
Right.
So it's still to me, it's still a skill.
Yeah.
And
Now, I know Pope and Young, if you got any type of, like a lighted knock, you can't put it in the books. Is that still...
I think the lighted knock, we went over that. I think you can use a lighted knock
Can you?
because it's not assisting you. And then we did had a discussion not too long ago about a light on a sight.
Yeah.
And you're going to see some new rules come out. I'm not going to go into detail on those because the new rules in the fair chase, you'll see are going to be a little bit different. Yeah.
How about for Boone and Crockett? Can you have like
Anything.
some of those scopes that have a rangefinder in them and all that? Is that do you know?
It seems to me, I can't really remember what the ruling was on that, but picked up or anything that's shot with a rifle basically can be entered, You can, if you have a animal shot with a crossbow, you can enter that too. A picked up animal. We just measured a new, it's not a new world record like the one that came out of out of the park, a sheep, a Rocky Mountain sheep. A real big one. I think he's going to still be in the top 5 or so, but I can't remember if he was a world record or not, I didn't measure that one, but, there are different things, and there's on the back of the score sheet or in the online of Boone and Crockett or the Pope and Young Club, there's a fair chase statement.
Okay.
And if you abide by those, and if you don't, doesn't mean that you didn't have access. So harvesting an animal, it's just not meant to be put in that book.
Yeah.
You have to have some restraints. It's like everyday life. Firemen or a policeman, we have to live by some of those rules. We try to change them as we go, and we've changed a lot of the rules in the Pope and Young Club.
Yeah.
That we allow now that we didn't allow.
I remember some of them
a few years back when I first started. And I'm old school. They said, well, okay, well, how do you feel, Gil? I said, well, we didn't, I said, well, that didn't work. And they go, oh, yeah, here comes Gil, old school. It didn't work. I go, wait a minute, give me a chance to talk. I go, it didn't work because of this reason. We didn't have the technology that we have now.
Yeah.
If you can make it work now, maybe we need to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's basically why they keep me around as one of the older measurers. They try to keep some consistency on how we've measured in the past, and then we're trying to bring in newer, younger people, so that we get that young blood in there too. Because if it's just like our hunting. If we don't get the younger hunters motivated, we may not ever have a hunting season.
Yeah.
Or you go to lobby against what the animal right people want to do to us in certain areas, or hunting seasons. they'll use that to their advantage because they know that we're not strong in numbers like we used to be.
Yeah.
And they know that, before hunting was basically for, it was for your meat, to survive. That's why it started. But as it's gone on, it's gone for pleasure, and some people do it for the wrong reason, is for the record book. But I try to tell people that I measure for us is, I'm going to measure this animal. I don't know, and I kind of have an idea. They'll put me on the spot. What it'll score? Oh man, I'm the worst guesser. And I don't ever want to say it. Well, it's 180, buck, and then it's not even 155. Or something. I'm not that bad, but
I'm
see
sure
what I'm
not.
getting at. They try to put you on the spot, and when it's not what you said, then they go, oh, But I try to tell them, even the rifle hunters, I says, remember when you looked at that animal, how you felt? Why did you squeeze the trigger or let that arrow go? Because you were happy with that animal at that time.
There you go.
That's all that really
So
matters.
do not let the score ruin that for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it would score higher than that. I don't know if I want to enter it now because they want, a higher score in the book. I says, it's not just about that. I said, let me ask you this. I says, you got a book animal, regardless of which book it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I says, and not only that, I says, you know how many times I've hunted and not had a book animal? But I says, the memories that I cherish will never go away. And the friendships I've met.
Yeah.
I've met people that I've helped, and I'm 100% disabled. And I still help them in whatever way I can. And they help me out a lot. Because hunting is being a good steward, not only to the animal or the land that you're hunting on, but to each other.
Yeah.
Is have respect for each other. And, and if you can help somebody out, they're going to help you. Eventually.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to help you. And that's the way it is, pay forward, they call it. But, it's an opportunity for people to learn how to share, whether it's sharing water holes. If you got more than one blind, I know I do that. I'll mark 2 blinds. I always just do it. And then I'll look at the tracks and that. Or if a friend of mine's got camcorders on there, I'll ask him which one's the better one. But then again, if you got several water holes in the area, you never know where those animals are going to go.
True.
They're creatures of habit, but a lot of times habit changes because of where people are at.
Yeah, pressure could push them somewhere
So,
else. Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I do that, but, I share. I'll tell them, I'll say, I'm going to use this blind, and if I'm going to be gone, because of my position in the VFW, I'll say I'm going to be hunting it for 5 days, good 5 days, and I'm going to be gone for 4 days or whatever. And if you want to use my blind, and and I know there might be a nice buck in there, and if they take it, I guess it was my loss. It was never meant for me to shoot it anyway.
Yep.
Is the way I see it. But
Yeah.
and I've had people do that. Whoa, Gil, I got a really nice deer out of that. I go, geez. I guess I shouldn't have gone home.
I'm as happy as I can be.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you. But hey, things like that happen, and it's just being able to get out there. And my measuring, I'm going to share this with you, and my measuring, and like I've said before, my church is out in the outdoors. And sitting there, and they say, how can you just sit there for hours? I said, there's so much. I can watch an ant build a little ramp to get a rock moving or whatever it's taken to its nest, or squirrel,
Yeah.
And then birds, birds will tell you when animals are coming in.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
They'll
Squawk.
they'll tell you.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you can learn, but
You got to just soak it all up.
Yep,
Everything.
and that's what I do is when I'm out there, even just sitting, it's the quietness that I can enjoy. I don't hear the shooting, and I don't have to think about what happened, 54 years ago in Vietnam, and I try to just maintain, and it just helps me to be myself, and it helps me with my PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you live like I have, like I tell people, the day I die is the day I get to rest. And that's kind of true. The memories and the things that haunt me sometimes, it's not all the time. Something will trigger something. It's just like in your everyday life. Something you'll somebody will do something, you'll remember, hopefully these are good thoughts, of something one of your kids did. Oh man, I remember that so clearly, you know. But in my case, it's something bad that happened to me. But don't get me wrong, I was only in Vietnam for 4 months, but I have some good memories there too, you know. And there was a time when I couldn't even talk about it, but when the moving wall came to Elko, they asked some of us veterans if we wouldn't mind going to the schools, you know, high school and at one of their gatherings. Can't remember what they call them now, but they'd get all the kids together and they wanted to talk to Vietnam veterans, and they get 3 of us. Or if we had a Korea, Vietnam, or whatever we had, you know, younger one, Desert Storm now, but we haven't done it with those. But they asked me if I wanted to share my story. And I thought, what am I going to talk about? I was hesitant at first. And for a long time, I would just tell people that I know my story, or people that I thought needed to hear something because of what they were dealing with in their own lives. I wanted to help them. But I thought, okay, I'll do it. So I went home, and in my little case I have 3 pieces of bamboo. So I thought to myself, and I have a helmet, and I had a dummy grenade, but I didn't want to dare take that to school. But then you could, but now you wouldn't even dare go, you know, here I got a grenade, you know. But I had some others that had everything taken out of them, you know. But I thought, what am I going to talk about? So I talked about my experience with bamboo. I told them how it could be your friend. I told you about the bungee pits and going through advanced jungle training, and we learned how they would do things to slow us down. And some of you have probably seen some of those movies where they've had all these different things that they could do with bamboo, booby traps and stuff like that. And it's all true. But they were good at that. But so I told them about that, and then I would tell them about the bamboo. I have a bamboo story. One time I went up into the highlands, and it's like a canopy, and it's dark in there. And I thought I was buttoned up really good, but I had 3 leeches on me. I don't know how they got on my body, because, you know, of course we had holes. I wore the same clothes that I had when I first went over there. I had 2 pairs of pants and 2 tops, and that's what I wore. And I tell you, in that soil and that weather over there, they wear out fast. I had a pair of boots wore out, and I got another pair of boots, but and that was just 4 months.
Wow.
But so maybe I had a hole in them, but they found a way in there. We get into the highland, and I tell the kids, we run out of food and water after 7 days. We up there for 7 days. We ran out of food and water except for what we had, and we're on a seek and destroy missions. And the sergeant says, "Okay, here's bamboo, you know, and remember how to do it. Put a little hole on top, and then when you get ready to drink, you're supposed to check, make sure there's no other little holes in that bamboo, because different things like to lay their eggs in there, larvae of some kind." So mine looked good, and I punched a little hole in the bottom, and I started drinking the water out of the bamboo. And I get down, the bamboo gets down a little ways, and I'm sucking on there, and then something goes down my throat, and I go, "Oh God, what was that?" You know, it's like when if you ever chewed, just fall on a little bit of chew. Man, I'm about ready to gag, and I'm going, "Oh God," I don't know what it was because it went down.
Right.
You know, I go, "Oh man."
Protein.
Yeah, so the kids start laughing. They like that, so I get a kick out of that. So that made me feel good, you know. So, yeah, you know, there's bad times and things we did, you know, but there's also some good things that you can teach kids to appreciate. But war's not pretty at all. And that's why, you know, when I had opportunity to get into archery, I got into archery. And, you know, I've been successful. I took a desert bighorn sheep in 1984.
Oh, wow.
At that time, I was really low. I was like 1 in 5, I remember. But then it seemed like that year, everybody else had desert bighorn sheep tags or sheep tags. Man, I got knocked down real fast. So man, I don't know where it sits now, but I was fortunate to take a desert bighorn sheep back then.
That's awesome.
I've taken elk, a couple of elk in Arizona. I've taken 3 or 4 elk in Colorado, and in Nevada, 2 years ago, I took a nice 6x6 bull over in Area 8 where I grew up. So,
Oh, cool.
but what I want to say is, we talked about, or you do, about seasoned hunters. Being a seasoned hunter or older, I'm just so you know, I'm 74 years old. I'll be 75, and being 100% disabled, you come up with other challenges. And I got to tell you, I've never felt so bad or a reality check. And everybody that's probably watching this will have that happen to them eventually. You get out there and your mind thinks you're still 21, 22, and you're strong, but your body knows that you're older
I'm
in
facing
a lot of
Seasoned.
ways. And you're feeling it, whether it's climbing the hills or rocks and that. And you heard Chuck Adams' some of his stories, how he got a billy goat and climbs down a rope and over, hand to
Yeah.
hand and a bow hanging. And I go, oh man, how would it be to be able to do something like that and
Yeah.
live to do that? But so I got to admire him for that. But as an individual, seeing that happen to myself 2 years ago when I got my elk with a bow at 30 yards in Nevada, when I was sitting in my blind, I almost cried because I thought, what am I doing here? What am I going to do if I shoot this big bull? And they weigh a lot.
Were you by
600 to
yourself?
700, yep. Excuse me. A 700 pound animal by yourself. I thought to myself, almost cried. And I still think about it now and it brings tears to my eyes. Reality check. You're getting older, you can't do this. I almost packed up my stuff because I didn't want to hit an animal and think that animal would spoil before I could get help. But I have a couple of friends before I went out there, and I thought about that. And I'm kind of one that hunts by myself. Maybe you two hunt together. You know how it is.
Mhm.
You trust somebody else, and
Yeah.
before you know it, your water hole, or your hunting area is gone to shit because somebody told
yeah.
everybody.
Yep.
And I've got friends that they don't want to put animals in the books and that because they have people follow them.
Yeah.
Because that's what it does. A lot of times it's good. It's good for us to keep track of animal structure or how animals live and do different things. But it's bad in some ways because some of these people, they don't really have a life because people want to know where they hunt so they can get in there. They're like,
They want a shortcut.
yeah. It's like a guy catches a big fish in that little pond right there. Pretty soon you have 20 other people. They think they're going to catch the same big fish there. And it's possible. But they know that guy caught a big fish there or shot a big animal there. They want an opportunity like it's going to be there.
Yeah.
And you know as well as I do, if you do any hunting, that's not always the case. There might be another animal that may be as close to that or a little bit less. But as you know, like world record animals, to get a world record animal is far and in between. So
Yeah.
I try to. When that happened to me, though, is when I wanted to get back to it. It really bothered me a lot. But luckily, I had a couple of friends. One's a retired school teacher, and the other one's a retired city person, and they're both hunters, and they know my situation. Going in, they told me, Gil, doesn't matter when you get this animal, we'll be there for you. So I called this one good friend of mine. He runs dogs. He comes up here to Idaho and hunts with his hounds too. And he's a houndsman too. Belongs to that club. Trapper. They do trapping and that. Him and his wife. I called him up. I went back to camp, and so I called him, and I was going to pack up my stuff and leave. And I says, Rich, I says, does that still go? That doesn't matter when I get something that you'll come and help me? He says, yeah, 24/7. He's retired, and him and his son like to hunt and just go around, and they didn't have tags, but they like to still go out and be around things. So I thought about it, and then, so I think it was a couple of days later, I called him up, and he was on his way to Reno to do some stuff, and he had his son with him. I says, Rich, I got one. He says, you did? I go, yeah. And this is like, I waited till after dark because I couldn't tell where the animal went. And I looked for blood. And these new broadheads, I was using the Rage 2-blade. When it went in, there was no blood trail at all. After we found the animal, there was hardly any blood there at all. And I thought, oh, did I miss? And you know how you're thinking, you can't, I couldn't sleep. But I called him up. I says, I hit one, but I don't know how bad. I says, the last place I was looking is where my arrow should have gone. It was quartering away from me, so I went right behind that last rib. I said, that's what I was seeing, and that's when I let go. The animal was standing there, pushing the other cows and one little 5x5 bull around, so trying to get a drink. So I knew where he was at and what he was doing, and he wasn't really pushing alive, just using his rack to knock these other guys out of the way, and the cows. And this is all I could remember. So I said, I think I had a good hit. I said, but I didn't find any blood. I mean, I looked, I had my flashlight and everything, and went back to what I was basics. And I thought, oh man, what if I went in the pond and I didn't see anything? And, all these things. I just could not sleep. But he said, well, I'll be out. He says, I'm coming back from Reno. I'm go out my Spring Creek and drop my son off out there. And he said, I'll be out there. So I'm laying there. I can't sleep. And about between 10 and 11 o'clock, here he comes. I could hear him on this road that we use. And I said, well, let's go take a look. So he's got lights. I got light. We go look. He said, oh, man, I can't see anything. So I said, well, let's go back, try and get some sleep, and we'll come hit it first daylight. So at first daylight, we went back down there. Naturally, there was elk down there. And I thought, well, that's the way it goes,
Yeah.
So we get down there and look around. I thought, did I shoot low? Because I was using a bow, and I found out sitting in that blind, it was set at, it's a new PSC, well, to me it was Evo, or G-Force. And then so I couldn't pull it back, and it was set at about 55 to 60 pounds. So I have Jim Aldura got me this bow set up and got me carbon arrows. And he said, Gil, you got to get out of the aluminum, the 2117s or 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are good, my satellite broadheads. And,
Yeah.
So he says, you need to do something different. So he got me set up. I thought, well, okay, this is modern age. I never shot carbon arrows too, this is dang. I knew. Anyway, I tried to pull that bow back. I have both bows out there. But antelope hunting, I was in my blind and I couldn't pull my bow back. You ever been in that situation? Your muscles?
One time.
Muscles?
Yeah.
So my advice to some of the hunters that pull back heavy poundage, sit down and see if you can pull it back sitting down or kneeling down, because you use different muscles and your body's pulling at you differently.
Right.
Well, that happened to me. I was sitting on my knees, and I went just to see if I could shoot, and I couldn't pull my bow back. And I thought, what am I doing here? This is antelope hunting. I had an antelope hunt before I got my elk tag, my elk hunt. So I thought, yeah. So I right then and there, I loaded up my bow and walked back to the truck. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I had my other bow there, and it's a PSC Evo. I think that's a newer. I got G-Force and Evo. Mm-hmm. So, and then the poundage you can hold back the lead off. I thought, oh man, this is sweet.
75 or 80%.
So it's set at 52 pounds, 51, 52 pounds. And I thought, oh man, this is so much easier. And I kind of sat down and I could pull it back so easy. And it's just like rubber band, I'm going back and forth. This is it. Man, I couldn't believe how easy it was. And it's lighter. And so, and it had a quiver that had like 8 arrows, and I took that off, and I had an old bear quiver that snaps on.
Yeah.
And I have 3. I put 3 arrows in it. I liked that so much better. Now that I could pop it off a lot easier.
Yeah.
So when I'm in a blind, I just take it off, set my arrows there, and then I lean the arrow up, or I'll have it knocked with a bow hanger, and I'll have it there. And I shoot an old Barner release, so that's even harder to get around the loop. So what a lot of times, if I see an animal coming in, I'll set my bow on my shoe, get the arrow ready, and then I'll put my Barner in there, but I already have it strapped on, or I don't have it strapped on, depending on how I do it. And then I'll strap it on because I cannot get my barner on that loop if I have it on. It's really hard. It takes me a little while, but I can get
Okay.
it. I can't get it to snap in.
That's is that the rope,
for-
the rope
No.
release, or is it the hook?
No, it's a hook.
The hook, okay.
Mine is the old Barner trigger-like deal.
Yeah, they used to make one that had a rope on it. Do you remember that
Yeah,
one too?
I don't have one. I wish I had.
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier. And then I was thinking, I wish Jim would have made that loop a little bit bigger. But I learned I could do that, and I'm pretty fast at it. So I got that ready, and I thought, well, come to find out, I thought, well, I had my other bow because I couldn't pull it back. So I thought, I wonder if I use my new bow, because before I used to anchor back here. And this way, Jim taught me I need to practice. So I practiced here, and I could shoot pretty good once my barner's right here. So what that does is bring your bow down. So your pins have to
Yeah.
go differently. So I thought, I wonder if I anchored in the back, not knowing any better, and I shot right underneath that elk. That came to mind. I thought, oh man, what if I did that out of stupidity and getting in a hurry? But if you train your mind, or you do it enough times, you train your mind, you just do it automatically. And
Yeah.
I think that's what happened, thank God. But that went through my head, and I'm thinking, oh, so we're out there looking, and I told him where I saw the elk last, out there about 100 yards, and both bulls were together, a younger 5x5 and the 6x6. And then the cow, and I was writing a story about it for my brother-in-law. He likes to read my stories, but I've never had this happen. That cow must have been with that bull for quite some time. Later, come to find out it was a 10-year-old bull. But that cow called for that bull, stood out there
Oh.
about 60 yards from where I was in my blind, kept calling, and it was starting to get a little dark by then. And I kind of felt funny hearing that and seeing that 5x5 go over with her and the cows that were there. And they stayed there for a long time, and then finally got, oh, she's still calling that bull. Finally, she gave up, and they left. Where I got out of my blind and I spooked them. But I've had sheep, the desert bighorn sheep, do something I never saw before too. And each one of these animals, that's why I cherish my time with an animal after I've taken one. I respected that cow for what she was going through maybe, and the loss, who knows how many years or how long she's been with this bull.
Yeah, if he's 10 years
years
old.
old.
Yeah.
And she's a lead cow. She's calling him, she's stomping, nose is over that way, and I'm thinking, well, maybe he'll come back. So that's why I waited until after dark. I thought, well, maybe I just wounded that bull and he'll come back over there. But when the 5x5 went over there and that 6x6 did not go over there, I had a feeling, I said, I got him. I had to, but you don't know for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
So that taught me something right there. I never had that happen with my other bulls that I've taken, but sometimes there hasn't been another cow there. But to hear her calling for her mate, that sent chills down my back. And I thought about it for a little bit. And that's why, the next day afterwards, when Rich came, he was no blood trail, but he can, because he traps a lot and he uses dogs, hounds, he knew he was looking at tracks and he could see.
Oh.
There was 2 bulls in there, yeah. He said, this one, I said, yeah, that one stopped there. And I'm over there where he said, oh, Gil, come on over here. I thought that bull had gone this way, and there's a tree there. The one bull stood there, but it looked like it went around. Well, the way I was looking, there was a tree here, but there was another tree here. It had gone up and around, and it died right there.
So it was right there.
Right there.
Wow.
About 100, maybe about 100 yards.
Wow.
But I couldn't see it.
Wow.
But I thought,
Better to
man,
be safe than sorry, like you played it though, and
you
instead
never
of
know.
pushing it or,
yeah.
yeah.
But
Well, that's good you had help.
yeah, luckily Rich. And then come to find out, another guy that had been watching the water holes, he's a taxidermist. He says, Gil, you just sit over there. So I just sat there. Him and Rich both
Oh,
took care of it, quartered
nice.
it. They caped it. Well, he watched Rich cape it. And because he's the taxidermist, I said, well, why didn't you get in? He said, well, Rich is doing that. So as soon as they got the cape off, he did go over there and start cutting the quarters off. And then he showed me how he does the
Cutlass.
cutlass and then the back straps.
Yeah.
Man, I thought, how slick. And I just got to sit. I thought, how rewarding is this for a 72-year-old man,
That's
to be able
awesome.
to have this.
You just missing the beers. All you're missing
yeah.
out.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had those later. But, it's kind of but when I got there, I give thanks to the animal gods.
Yeah.
Because not only because I got to shoot the animal, but he didn't suffer. He only went that far. I come to find out I shot him right behind that last rib, took out part of the liver, and then clipped one lung and went through the other lung.
Nice.
But so he didn't suffer a lot. But but I'll never forget the way that cow wasn't really a bark; it was something different. And being kind of getting dark, it's eerie.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. Yeah.
I thought to myself, what have I done? But I'm thankful, and I think she probably moved on. I'm hoping, I don't try to think about how animals feel or not. And as you know, the arrow is one of the fastest way to kill an animal, and they don't even realize they're dying.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They
With a
don't.
rifle.
Because, that cuts that
Cuts
pressure off to their brain and they go unconscious so quick.
If I had a way of shooting an animal with a rifle or a bow, I'd shoot the bow.
Yeah.
The bow, to me, is the not that the rifle wouldn't do it, because we see a lot of animals do it.
Sure.
But to me, I like the way the bow cuts the
Yeah.
arrow. But in that case, you have to have sharp arrows.
Yeah. Good
You
arrow
can shoot
placement.
any kind of arrow, any bow you want. You got to put the arrow there, and the broadhead must be sharp.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Don't shoot one and then think, oh, I can shoot it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Change it out.
Yeah.
Sure, it costs like $10 anymore. My time, it wasn't that much. You could buy a dozen arrows or broadheads for that.
Yeah.
Now, boy, it's like shooting a bullet.
Oh, I know, man. It's so expensive. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to go hunting? Well, let's get you geared up. I think I end up gun world. I end up doing over $1,000.
Right.
But Jim got. Oh, I says you really got me set up.
Awesome. Well, we sincerely appreciate you coming here. Love your stories. And, I was thinking earlier when you were talking about, the things you do with VFW, which is probably the most important thing, but then the things you do with teaching hunter ed and bow hunter ed and Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett. I know all that's volunteer stuff. How much positive impact you've had on people's lives, probably way more than you'll ever understand. But, guys like you are far and few between that do that. So my hat's off to you for not only serving our country, but serving the people like you have afterwards has been, I'm sure, like I said, a big impact.
Well, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I thank you for that. But it's been a pleasure of mine to do what I do. And I guess the most pleasurable things is when I help a veteran and their family members. I'm in the honor guard, and the hardest thing for me to do is present that next of kin, that flag.
Yeah,
And
I
I've done
bet.
it many a time, and there was a time when I couldn't do it. But I was brought in about 5 years after I joined the VFW. I was still young. I did not want to do it, but they needed somebody, so I did it. And when that rifle, the volley of three, I go like this. I still do it now, but I kind of, a lot of people probably don't notice it. But what it did for me, it made me understand that I'm here in this country in a safe atmosphere most of the time. But at the same time, it's something that I can do for my veterans and their family members.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want people to realize, yeah, there's a newer generation coming up, but there's also an older generation like myself. Don't count us out.
Yeah.
We still love to hunt and fish and do the things that you could say our kids are doing now, or our grandkids.
As well as it's because of people like you is the reason why they can still do those. You and all veterans, to keep us able to have the freedoms that we do.
But I guess what I want to say, I don't want older, seasoned archers like myself to give up, like I wanted to give up. Trust a younger person. I'm thinking they'll come and help you or be there. And that's the main thing is you still have an opportunity. Some of us can't pull back as many pounds because our joints are no good anymore from shooting, or other things, and some of them. And I don't have anything against the disabled or older veterans using crossbows, during the season. But there's a place for them, and there's a reason why they have them. To me, I noticed one guy told me that he had somebody that he taught bow hunter education, and he got him a deer tag. Well, he has his own property, he can take does, and he always puts them out there. And it was kind of hard to do with a bow, being a handheld one. So the kid goes and he hears about crossbows. And what's he do? He comes back to hunt on the property, and the guy let him do that. But he said, why are you going to shoot with a crossbow? You can shoot with a regular bow. He says, it's a lot easier. He said, I don't have to spend as much time practicing. And I thought to myself, he told you that after everything you did for him? I said, well, that's probably true. But is the easy way always the best way?
Right.
And that's the same thing with fair chase.
Yeah.
Is the easy way or lying how you took this animal, whether it was spotlighting or any other ways, it's not fair chase.
Yeah.
Or a collared animal and you tracked it through your iPhone or whatever,
Yeah.
Is it really fair chase? So I guess that's what I asked.
You got to be able to
we
look
have.
in the mirror,
Yeah.
because that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's true. Nobody's going to know except for you and God.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you tell somebody or somebody saw you.
Yeah.
And anymore, there's a possibility somebody might have you on film.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. The people tend to brag about stuff they shouldn't either.
Oh,
Yeah.
They do dumb stuff like that.
And we live in a society anymore that some things, even maybe some things that I've said, will be taken wrong. You got to be politically correct. Well, bull with that. I'm not politically correct. I'm a Marine, a Vietnam veteran with PTSD, and I just tell it like it is.
That's the way you are.
Because I think people need to stick up for what they believe in, as long as it's the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's with fair chase.
Right.
Can't
Awesome.
stress that enough.
Nope. Well, thank you very much. I know we appreciate
I
it.
super appreciate this. The stories were. This is by far the longest podcast we've done, and
How many hours? 4?
I was enthralled start to finish, and that's no joke.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely. Yeah, and I hope that
Well, I had
people
some notes
watching
and I
it.
didn't use them, but I started Nevada Bowhunters Association. I was president of the association from 1981 to 1991. I did it for 5 years, I think. Elko Archery Club, I came back in 1980 and 1981. And then I came back in 1986 because they couldn't find anybody that take over. And I've been a Pope and Young measure since 1987.
wow.
I got a Desert Bighorn sheep in 1985, scored a 151 and 3/8. And then I got my first elk, and there wasn't very many elk taken with a bow in 1982.
Wow.
Nice. Very
And
nice.
those are a couple of things. I went back, but I've been involved in a lot of different things. I was on the county advisory board to manage wildlife for 11 years, chairman, and that's how that works, seasons and stuff like that. And I'm a charter member for the Elko Bighorns Unlimited. I did 30 years with them. We all threw $25 in a pot and started that. It's still going strong.
Nice.
You
Wow.
guys are doing good. It's a younger generation. I'm so proud of them.
That is awesome.
And I started the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation in Elko. I did 20 years with them. That's a long time. You don't get
That
people
is.
that are dedicated that
Yeah.
they want to stay in something that
Yeah.
long.
Right.
It's really hard, as you know, is to get volunteers.
Yeah.
People don't want to volunteer anymore. They want it there for them.
Right.
and they'll bitch about it.
Well, and like I said earlier, I just the volunteer stuff you done is, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't get paid for it. Some of them I get my expenses.
Yeah.
Like when I go back to Washington D.C., they get me airplane ticket, and I have so much for
Food and stuff.
Yeah, but a lot of it comes out of my own pocket.
Yeah.
But the things, you know what a psychiatrist would cost me if I had to go every time I had a moment?
Right.
I wouldn't have any money now. It has helped me to be the person that I am and be able to handle the things I handle. The VFW has done that for me because I can share my stories with other people that have the same
Yeah.
issues or
They can
same,
relate.
you know,
They can relate to
just
it.
like
Yeah.
hunters, we
Yeah.
understand each other, and that's what archery has done for me. And two, even though I shoot a lot with a rifle, Boone and Crockett, just being able to measure, to get ahead here and measure. Your mind is not thinking about, well, let's see how this goes. What kind of a score is that going to be? It takes your mind away from everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of tell some of my chairmans. I've gone through several chairmans in Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young. I can honestly say I don't know. I says I don't know how, if you realize what this has done for me to be on the committee. Because a lot of times you don't get on that committee that long as myself.
Yeah.
But to be able to be part of this committee for this many years and have a say in what happens to the next generation of hunters,
Yeah.
means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
And that the rifle stuff hasn't changed a lot, but the Pope and Young stuff on how they see, and that again is only to get it in the record book. If you don't want to get it in the record book, you can shoot whatever you want, and you
right.
can shoot whenever you want, daylight, night, I don't care. I don't like it, but they can do what they want, but it will not go in the record book because of fair chase.
Yeah.
So it has taught me a lot, and to be able to make new rules for the next generation of hunters that they can live with a new technology. I'm thankful I'm part of that
Yeah.
because we have some younger people there, but they also need to remember where we came from.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what you're basically doing here is you're not only teaching the younger people about myself being a seasoned archer and some of the things that we went through, but to appreciate, them being able to go to, what do you got, that Sportsman Warehouse,
Yeah.
and be able to, or archery, I don't know how many archery shops you have in town, but just to be able to go in there and pick whatever you want, and then, look at it. We had nothing to look at but a picture in the magazine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
And
a lot
hope
of
for the
time-
best.
Oh no, it was not the best. I got stuff like that in my kit that I have for the bow hunter education. I said, "This is what we used to use." They go, "What is that?"
Yeah.